Hello and welcome to another small. No, restart.
Why?
Hello, Jeremy. Don't try to understand what's going on in my brain.
Small.
Yeah, no, it's not a small screen Star Wars.
There's no
It's not.
reason you should be saying that.
You're right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Tower of Babble. I'm just sorry. I can't stop laughing at what you just said. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Tower of Babble podcast. As always, I am Julian and as always. Oh, man, I suck at this. Hold on. Good thing I wasn't recording up until this moment. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Tower of Babble podcast. As always, I'm Julian and I'm joined by Jeremy Kozier.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about the latest film and TV news. A bit of a smorgasbord for this episode. It's been a while since we've done a regular show. There's some things we want to catch up on. Jeremy, I don't know if you have any thoughts about the cancellation of Acolyte, but I'm happy to save those for a small screen Star Wars offshoot episode if you prefer.
You're probably going to have to save those.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Fair enough.
Oh wait, I have one. I guess I could say good riddance.
Oh, really? You're one of those? Okay.
No, I just thought that'd be funny.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know
that would pull at you.
You know the audience exactly. No, that's good. That's just performative. That's what we want.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you can totally derail me there. Oh, just a little bit of housekeeping. Film Club, we're hoping to get in this week for the Patreon subscribers. Hoping to get that in this week. If not, it'll be early next. So just keep an eye on the main feed or sort of the Patreon feed for that. If you want to help support the show, get access to the monthly film club, head over to patreon.com/TowerBabbleCast. Jeremy, do you have any recollection of what movie we're doing this month? Because for a variety of reasons, I don't remember.
Yes, it is called Heart and Soul.
Heart and Soul. Okay, and neither of us have yet to see it, right? Neither of us have watched it. You have watched it today. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't seen it recently.
Okay. Well, this will be new for us. I kind of just need some sort of it'll be fresh for you and new for me. Either way, I kind of just need a little bit of like any random movie will suit right now.
This will do.
Yeah, this will do just fine. I did watch. Speaking of any random movie, I watched that new rom-com. I guess is it that new rom-com? Who's the big hotness from Twisters? What's his name? The new Tom Cruise. Glenn Powell. Right. So he's got this new rom-com, and where it's called Hitman. Did you say Hitman?
No, I said Hangman.
Oh. Yeah. Well, anyway, his new movie's called Hitman.
Top Gun.
Yes, because he leaves his wingman hanging. Yeah, it's a great movie. Anyway, a less so great movie, but fairly entertaining is this Hitman movie where he plays a psychology teacher who pretends to be a hitman, but then by pretending, he kind of gets himself caught up in this world of danger. It's very good. The girl who plays, you probably wouldn't remember this, but the girl who plays Bix Colleen from Andor is the female lead, and she's very good. Exactly. Okay. Let's get into. I'm not here to talk about Hitman, but I would say if you're looking for something in that vein, you could do much worse than that movie. Okay, just a little bit of, I guess, personal news that I think my philosophy. Jeremy, here's my philosophy. Okay, my philosophy is we spend so much time on this show chit-chatting about all sorts of fun things. Our listeners spend a lot of time, hours of their lives with us. So I'm happy to share. Well, not happy to share. That's not the right term. I am fine with sharing some personal information because I think it helps to generate trust with the audience, and I think that's important. So the reason that we haven't been able to do a lot of episodes recently, I did mention we were going to take a break, and that was true anyway. But my brother did pass away. It was a surprise for the family, and it's taken up a lot of time, and it's just been very difficult. So Jeremy was kind enough to help me put together a tribute video for my brother that we shared at the funeral. It really helped Jeremy kind of as a processing tool. So appreciate that. Big thank you again for that. I'm not going to share that widely. I just wanted to mention it. But yeah, the situation has been complicated. So the schedule for the near future for the show is going to be a little bit rocky. That being said, a couple things I have in the works. I'm looking to bring back friend of the show, Matt Torque. You might remember him from the film club for Swingers. He's going to try to swing by the show to talk about Alien Romulus. I want to get a Romulus episode in. Jeremy, have you seen it, Alien Romulus?
No, I've not.
Are you planning to?
Probably not.
Oh, it's a shame. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, you can wait for it until it gets, on VOD or home video or whatever. And then also, as I mentioned, kind of teased there a little bit with Jeremy, is try to do an offshoot episode with Rachel, talk about the Acolyte cancellation and really the pretty big backlash it's getting from major media publications like Rolling Stone towards Disney and Lucasfilm and their decision making here. Star Wars is in a challenging place, and I think it's worth talking about. So those are kind of some things that we have in the works. But for now, for this episode, because I think I just wanted to get back on the mic, for this episode, we're just going to do a kind of pick-em of stories of the last little bit. I guess first thing we should mention, since the last thing we really talked about on the show was Deadpool and Wolverine, is that Deadpool and Wolverine crossed the Billy mark and is now the most successful R-rated movie of all time. Jeremy, how are you sitting on that movie now, weeks later?
Pretty much the same. I just think it's cool that Ryan Reynolds can kind of continue the victory lap with his shout outs on social media.
Yeah.
All the actors involved, cameos, and just some of the creatives. It's just really cool to see. I mean, well deserved, and let's hope conversations with those characters and those casts kind of snowball into something else.
So you're pro Channing Tatum for solo film as Gambit?
Yeah, I think the climate is right for it, and just kind of everything going on in Hollywood. I don't think it's like that quintessential Gambit movie that you would have always thought for. I think it's gonna be something different now, but it could be pretty fun. But also, I'm just kind of on the Wolverine train still, and just very eager to see as the years pass here, kind of where that lies, and
like where does it take Hugh Jackman? Like, how much more involved will he or won't he be? Is that what you're kind of?
Yeah, just with
that's
Secret
the next
Wars
bit of business.
Well, I mean, the next two Avengers movies, right, with Robert coming back.
Sure.
We had the Spider-Verse or the No Way Home movie with the Spider-Man, Toby. So I don't know. I just think all that stuff, that's kind of the future of the MCU for me, and Deadpool kind of shows us a doorway a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, obviously more X-Men's coming. I'm not too worried about that. I will just say this: I like Channing Tatum as he's fine as Gambit, but it feels like the whole inclusion of him felt like it was like we were all in on the joke, Like to take it seriously feels like you're.
Well, that's what I mean. I feel like the movie wouldn't be the serious. It would just have these really badass kind of fan servicey moments throughout, but hopefully it's a cool story at the core.
An extended video game cutscene in some ways.
Yeah.
Okay.
But because we wouldn't get a Gambit movie, a solo. Like, we're just in a different time.
Who would want that? There's no reason.
Marvel
for that.
is slowing their projects down. So.
Right. So a solo Gambit movie could be like 10 years away. Right? And there's no. Yeah. That's just not gonna. No, it'd be too late by then. I don't know. For me, I'm happy to have Gambit included as a part of whatever version of the MCU X-Men we get. I'd like that. In fact, I like Gambit a lot. I forgot how much I liked Gambit until X-Men 97 came around. I was like, oh yeah, I do.
To be honest,
I do really like that character.
97 is really all that matters in terms of X-Men. Deadpool, Wolverine, and like kind of what they were doing, and maybe some of those characters for the movies coming back. But '97 in terms of Gambit. It's like
Sure.
holy hell, like he stole the show essentially, or that episode. It's kind of what he did, and then the future ramifications of his character and how he comes
Mm-hmm.
back, and all the teases and the comic books we know that they're gonna take inspiration from. So like season 2 and beyond of that is peak X-Men right now.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to. I don't normally like commenting on rumors, but what have you heard about the Bo DeMeo situation? I've heard that there was some additional information. It was like some sort of sexual misconduct.
Yeah, like
It was
alleged.
the reason he was let go, but it's
Yeah,
so
it just seems
vague.
like there was like kind of like a little bit of a back and forth between PR at Disney or Marvel in
Mm-hmm.
response to, I guess, Bo opening up a little bit more about a specific like situation that led to his credits being absolved from season 2, even though like pretty sure they're using all
Right.
of his
His
like
spec scripts
because
and
they
stuff.
were
Yeah.
like pretty deep into season 2. I think like the animatics or something like that are already done, which is
Yeah.
awesome to hear is for us. Hopefully, the turnaround on that is not too far away.
Jeremy, I watched a video on YouTube last night. Remember Adam Ruins Everything from College Humor? Do you remember that guy?
No.
He was like this redhead with a really high pitched voice who would just explain why everything sucks. um, anyway, he did this whole video about how the streaming services have ruined television. Now, I think it's a little hyperbolic, personally. That's kind of his whole shtick. But I would say I kind of agree with the premise that this future of TV that we were promised, this golden age of television, it came and went. We had it, and it's gone, and it may never come back.
When did
And
it leave?
what we have now sucks, kind of. What?
When was the golden era?
I think right around.
Spartacus time, like Spartacus
Oh,
era.
I don't know. Is that
Sopranos,
maybe? I'm thinking like right around
Breaking
when
Bad,
Netflix was. Yes, exactly.
Mad
Break
Men.
exactly.
That's a little bit.
Yes.
I think that's a little bit before
Game of
like, kind
Thrones. You don't think Game of
that was
Thrones
before
is
Game of
like
Thrones.
okay? So you think
That's what
I'm
I mean.
thinking?
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like it kind of lingers to an extent with like some outliers.
Well, it's hard
in
to
between.
Jeremy, if you know, like
True
you need to get.
Detective, right? That came out.
Oh,
out
right.
of
Yeah, season
nowhere.
1. Mm-hmm.
What was that?
Uh,
2018, 2017. Like who? I
It's
don't even know.
you can't really cleanly mark the beginning and end of an age, right? They kind of like
That's
blend
what I mean.
together.
But I
Yeah.
like to just. I'm very comfortable with saying like Sopranos, Mad Men, Breaking Bad, like kind of just around
Sure.
there.
I feel like it has to continue through Game of Thrones because it was the biggest show in
Yeah,
the
that
world.
was like the culmination of like the
Right.
possibility of like what these things could be.
By the end, like 10 years into Game of Thrones, or whatever, the 9 years in, by the time it was done, it was wrapping
many.
up, right? It, we'd already kind of crossed the Rubicon of the end of the golden age of television.
Mm-hmm.
And
it played out throughout the rushing of whatever the Game of
yeah,
Thrones
everyone
ended up
wanting to
being.
do their own Netflix, right? And now, yeah, this is kind of a part of that whole story about how it's very unfortunate how The Acolyte was canceled in the way it was. But I mean, it's just a symptom of a bigger problem, which is that these companies weren't making money. They were losing money hand over fist, and that was never sustainable. And the promises that Netflix made to us, which was that, oh, you can cut the cable cord and watch all the best content for $5 a month, was all a lie. It was all a lie, and it was a lie designed to destabilize and
Totally
ruin.
lied to.
Well, it was a bait and switch, and the problem was it baited all of the executives in Hollywood. Also, they thought that was the future, and they were also lied to. So now we're all paying the price. The bottom fell out, and now shows take 2.5 years between seasons. Like House of the Dragon season 3, which is only going to have 4 seasons, or is it 3 seasons? Anyway, there's at least one more season coming, but it's not coming until 2026. And I don't know. Just in general, it feels like everything takes forever. The Boys, the last season of The Boys was a year and a half ago between the most recent one. Maybe it's nostalgia, but I do pine for the days of having 20 episode seasons. You remember like when we were watching The Flash, early The Flash, late
Mm.
Arrow. That's definitely in part of the golden age of television. I don't need that many episodes
Yeah,
of television, but 8 is not enough. I'll tell
for
you that.
me, it was when I was torrenting them.
Yeah,
Like
every week.
I'd be in on the weekly torrent. You wait a couple hours or whatever after the premiere on a
Mm-hmm.
Sunday night, even or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
was, and then you experience it that way by stealing, I guess.
Yeah, we don't condone theft, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. You know what I
And
mean?
then like
Yeah.
I just loved having that hard drive or thumbsticks like with these
Sure.
files and all these episodes, Sopranos I was doing, and then just diving into shows that you missed and you could just download those episodes and shoot through them. But
Yeah.
like obviously the convenience though of the app, of the TV, of the remote, of
Yes.
it's
Never
all
having to
there.
get
But
off the
like for
couch.
me,
Mm-hmm.
it's like I don't partake. Like I just think it's just this huge swath of movie posters and lists and
Well, it's
this,
just
and
a lot
it's
of
like
garbage.
you
It's
just
just
spend your
so much
time
garbage.
going through like which do what. Whereas cable back in the day was like it just played and you kind of like got like little tastes, like
Well,
little samples, and then you just
yeah.
kind of sunk into something.
Well, they talk this video that I mentioned. You could go check it out. It Adam Ruins Everything, dude. But he talks about how like back in the day, used to have channels that were like designed specifically for specific audiences, right? Obviously, HBO was the premium channel, and everyone knew it meant the best television, right? But you could watch sci-fi, and that would be where you could catch things like Firefly and Star Trek, and or you could watch, the ABC comedies were going to be decently good. I mean, what happened? Like, there's no new sitcoms. Not that you need them, but I will say this, Jeremy, and you can make fun of me if you want, but I've been watching That 90s Show on Netflix,
Mm.
and it's a
Yeah, I got a couple episodes. It's cool because you get the older like
the older
almost
cast
their
is in there.
grandparents now or
Yes,
whatever.
but
So
to be honest, they're so smart for understanding that those were the best characters of the original show. So, like
but
Red and
but
Kitty,
they
yeah,
also like they're probably more down to kind of do a different take
sure, I
other than
guess.
yeah.
But I mean, I just in general, I just feel like it's refreshing because it's such a
Funhouse
throwback.
came back and
Yeah.
came and went. Full House.
But again, like this
That
season
had
of
its moment.
this season of
Daniels.
90 Show only has 8 episodes in it. It's like
Yeah,
that kind of
it's
stuff
always-
is crazy.
It's just funny how like as time goes like flies by, we just have all this trial and error and these we can measure what worked and what didn't and amount of episodes and
But it takes years to
budgets.
like course correct. It's like, oh shoot, we made a decade-long mistake. It's now going to take 10 more years for us to be able
Right.
to
But
recover
that's just
from
how
this.
it goes, right? Even
Yeah.
movies, like movies come out that are ahead of its time and then it has its day later on. in
Yeah.
life.
That's true.
It's just wild.
Well, speaking of something that has come out and didn't have a ton of episodes, but is a throwback for sure. Batman Cape Crusader. I've been wanting to talk about this for a while. I've been thinking about it for a while and mulling it over. Jeremy, you said you've seen a couple episodes, but where are you sitting on it? Just overall impressions.
Yeah, honestly, I just couldn't. I just wasn't able to kind of get into it. I don't know. Maybe I just have to kind of maybe just give a couple more episodes or something, but it just didn't.
It's not
Didn't
clicking.
jump out at me like X-Men '97 is doing for X-Men and Marvel.
Sure.
And I think I don't know if maybe I'm wrong, but like it just doesn't seem that way in terms of what you see online. Like I just think it does.
It's not-
feel
it's-
like it kind of came and went.
Yeah, that's probably it deserves more buzz. I would say that in general. X-Men '97 is the perfect analog for this show because they're both originally from the same era. I remember watching Batman the animated series, Spider-Man the animated series, and X-Men the animated series all on Saturday morning. In some cases, it was in syndication at that point, but either way, they were synonymous with each other for me. I think, and these are kind of broadly held opinions, I think, in general, that Batman the animated series, the original, holds up as kind of a timeless piece of art, deserving of the Emmys it won and all that kind of stuff. And that X-Men the animated series, it's original from an animation perspective and some other kind of technical side of things, doesn't hold up as well, but was a major reason that the X-Men as a cultural phenomenon hit so hard for our generation. So They both, and like you can make the same argument for Batman. So for me, it's such an interesting case study of like two very different but similar kind of approaches to taking these original properties and reviving them, because they're designed specifically. They've been tailor made for us, Jeremy. So that's kind of, I gotta admit, that does feel pretty good. I like to know that we're still valuable to these corporate people in some way. That being said, they're just so different in their approach, because Batman Caped Crusader brings back the original talent, right? The original creator in Bruce Timm, and his whole motto coming into it was he didn't want to just do more Batman the Animated Series, because that was the original. That's what Amazon pitched him. They said, hey, we want you to come back and do more BTAS, right? And he said he wasn't interested in that. And then when he came back to them and told them that he would be interested if he could do some like a fresh take, that's when we got kind of what Batman Caped Crusader is, which is this 30s, 40s era Gotham, which was always, the original Batman the Animated Series had this kind of like not unspecific time frame. Like there was computers, but also it looked like it was the 30s, whereas this is firmly placed into that time frame, that 30s, 40s time frame. There's some bit of fudging. But
just a quick side note.
Yeah.
The new Watchmen Chapter 1 animated movie.
Mm-hmm.
Which obviously that story takes place in the 80s, and like obviously jumps around before that. But they have like all futuristic kind of like cars, and stuff that kind of like, it's not super overbearing. It kind of just it actually somewhat fits into the world and the colors, just because of like the use of like the neons and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But the buildings still all remain like kind of gothic or whatever.
So it's kind of it's similar to Batman the Animated Series in kind of its unspecific time frame.
Yeah, like it just like I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. Like those are like futuristic vans and taxis, not like super overbearingly futuristic. Maybe just more like kind of these like vessels, these like round vessels,
like retro futuristic. Would you
like,
say?
There's even like I think a charging station just like sitting there.
Oh, really?
Like
so
there's not
weird.
like it's not gas.
It's so odd. I mean, they get set in an alternate future, and I understand all that. But again, quick side note from we'll come back to Caped Crusader, but I just have no interest in watching that part one, or how many are they doing? 2 parts?
Yeah,
for this?
Two. Maybe.
Like this is their new thing, where they don't make one movie; they make like 2 or 3 movies as a part of one thing, and it turns me off a lot. I know they've done this before, obviously, like part 1 of Long Halloween and part 2, and like that makes sense to some degree. But
I don't mind it if it's a double part.
Yeah, but it needs to be earned, I think. Well, there was 3 parts for Crisis on Infinite Earths, and that was really bad. So maybe that's just what burned me out on it. I don't know.
What is even happening?
It's the most
confusing,
confusing, useless.
Well, yeah, I remember when we talked about the announcement of it, like, oh, this should get you excited. It's like, yeah, anything more Watchmen, sure, but like, it just feels so bland and like this weird AI version of like maybe like the live action movie.
Right.
It's so just, and then like the animation these days are weird because it's almost like a hybrid, like 3D cell shaded, like odd moving. Like it's not just like a straight up cartoon anymore. You know what I mean? Like it's like there's weird 3D dimensional, like
it doesn't look clean in the way it should, in my opinion. Yeah.
I don't know. The music seemed okay. I don't know. It just was like, what's the point? Like, I'd rather watch like the voiceover of like the comic, that like the animated comic.
Oh, right. Like just right.
It's like a 10-hour
motion comic.
Yeah, it's just a motion comic. One guy's reading. The only downside of that one is that he does like the girl, like female voices in it. So
he's like, oh,
guy,
come on,
like,
yeah. Uh-huh.
But it's cool
I can
to
work
see the
sometimes.
actual comics like moving, like the actual artwork by Alan Moore or Dave Gibbons, sorry.
Yeah.
Moore is the writer. But yeah, it's just like just watch the live action. Like it's so much better.
Well, I think like as someone who we talked about this before, but just I think, and we agree that the Watchmen, the live action Zack Snyder movie, is way ahead of its time. It just came out in the wrong time. and yeah, it's not exactly one to one with the comic. From it, they make some changes in the story and stuff, but there are so many like frame by frame recreations of the actual comic in the live action movie that they to do it again in the animated form feels so redundant. Like, what do we need the animated version
Yeah,
from? We already
and you
have
don't even
almost a
get
shot for
like
shot remake.
you don't get like that needle drop kind of like
No,
like the score choice that was bold at the time and like widely successful in terms of its choices. Maybe a couple were made fun of here and there, but like you get that it's like pretty like normal now for these movies to have like a bold soundtrack with like
sure.
classics, and like you're not gonna get this in this animated movie, which is like a little disappointing.
Does it include the Dark Freighter or Black Freighter or whatever it's
Yeah, it
called?
does. And that one, it's like, man, why am I watching this when we have
The other
uh
animated version
yeah, the
with Gerard
which is
Butler.
part of the yeah with Gerard
Yeah.
Butler. It's like so much better.
That's well. This is what I mean. It feels like I don't understand what the point of this even is.
Well,
Like,
I think you got to remember, like, because they revisited Watchmen, like they're always going to, because it's
sure.
such a cash cow and it's such a major thing for Warner Brothers, I guess, in DC, like in terms
Hmm.
of critical, like, because that's like the only book or whatever on the or like comic book that's on the Times 100 best novels
Yeah.
or whatever, right? So
Yeah.
Watchmen is a huge, huge piece. But they made the show, which was a sequel to the book essentially, by the Lost creator Dan Lindelof, which was widely successful, critically especially. But that was kind of
Great
a
show.
one-off.
Hmm.
And so this is kind of like them just kind of continuing, like, hey, remember Watchmen? Like, but it's just this is the wrong. Like, give us something more in vein of that show, or or nothing basically. Like it's
Right.
you know what I mean,
Yeah,
or
I
like a
agree
new
with
video
you.
game or something. But like even then, like just feels
Well,
weird.
I feel like no, there'd be no. There's no way you could make a Watchmen video game
Well, we had
that
one.
wouldn't.
There was a tie-in movie game
Well, I'm just
called
saying.
the
Is it any
Watchmen. The End
good?
is. It's cool. Like it's obviously a lot of nostalgia for me. Like it was on. I had the PS3 version. Had a bunch of posters included into it. You got like it's super tied into the movie. It looks exactly like the movie. It was
Hmm.
called The End Is Nigh. Watchmen. The End Is Nigh.
It's a good name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It just feels like a cash grab to me.
Yeah, but
And
at the end,
yeah.
end of the day, I adore Watchmen. Like I just absolutely adore it. One of my
So
favorite things ever.
but you're the mark, right? Like that. They
True,
know
but I
you'll buy it.
recognize
Yeah.
this piece of like I bought the Blu-ray, and like I forewarned you there would be no slipcase.
Well, you didn't forewarn me. You made it clear to yourself that there would be no one.
Right, because
No
the
slipcase.
official image on like where it was listed, you could just tell it was like just like the plasticky case and no
But
like.
also way overpriced. How much did you pay for the
Well,
Blu-ray?
it was only 25 at like in the Walmart like in
Oh,
person.
okay.
I don't know
Okay.
why it was
On Amazon.
39.99 on Amazon.
I don't know.
But it's almost like they're trying to just kind of force the 4K edition on you, $5 more, and you
Hmm.
get multiple discs in there because I think it comes with the
You get
Blu-ray
the Blu-ray and the
and the
4K.
4K. But sometimes it's just the 4K, and then most Blu-rays now they used to have the DVD and the digital. Now it's just the Blu-ray, and it's still
Yeah,
more
well,
expensive.
you don't need a DVD anymore.
Yeah,
Really?
but I don't mind. I don't mind it being. And there's a lot of cases where like when they've done restorations, I think Batman Beyond,
Sure.
they couldn't get a few episodes onto Blu-ray. So
They just weren't able to, or like.
yeah, some sort of file corruption happened.
Hmm.
But then
Well, that's
even
tragic.
Friends, I think there's more episodes on the DVD than the Blu-ray one.
That's wild. Okay.
There's just like certain things that like can be lost during that like HD transfer.
It's so crazy how much we lose when we do these kind of migrations over, right? And you think if you have stuff on film, like a lot of this early stuff is, it wouldn't be that hard. But
Mhm.
I'm just thinking about that James Cameron response to the whole, what was it, The Abyss and
Get
Terminator
Alive.
2 or whatever. Um, and it's just like, that's important to me. It's weird because I want to agree with his like general sentiment. Let me read it because I
But
think
well,
it's
he
funny.
backs up with saying that he has a whole team and he went through it and that's
Right.
how he wants it to look. He's basically just saying that like whoever's critiquing it is wrong. But
It's
then
outright.
like
It's
we
his
shared
perspective.
some images
Yeah,
that people were capturing, like these Blu-ray enthusiasts, 4K enthusiasts, and they just like it's a whole nother language for them in terms of the audio quality and how they measure it,
sure.
and then the visual quality, and they compare it to the 1080p Blu-rays. In a lot of cases, when they showcase these images online for us to see,
It looks
it's like
worse.
clear as day that the Blu-ray is like better than the 4K. I think
Yes.
Man of Steel suffers from that as a popular one. American Graffiti,
Mm-hmm.
one of George Lucas's movies, suffers from that.
Early one. Yeah.
So then when I see that and I'm trying to collect 4Ks and these movies are like movies I want, it's like, man, like, okay, I got to make sure I have a Blu-ray of this movie as well, because like you never know for that scenario where you want to like kind of like see for yourself or just have the
Yeah.
best possible experience. It's just like that perfectionism that kind of comes out, I guess.
Well, and even I guess like we talked about this before, 1080p is pretty good still.
Oh,
Like
it's
if you get like
fantastic.
if you get an actual Blu-ray and
It's
you put that
amazing.
in your
Yeah.
it looks great, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
4K
the
looks great
It's
too,
the
but like
base.
you don't really get to. It doesn't look that much better. Like
Like you
that's
saw the
my
Blu-ray. Like I pick up Blu-rays on the regular, like $5 ones, whatever. Like
yeah.
it's the new DVD to me, basically.
That being said, but like so the hi-fi
Close to new.
people can be annoying about how like about that stuff. And I think maybe that's where James Cameron's coming from. So here's what he says. He says when people start reviewing their grain structure, you need to move out of mom's basement and meet somebody, right? I mean, I'm serious. I mean, are you fucking kidding me? I've got a great team that does the transfers. I do all the colors and density work. I look at every shot, every frame, and then the final transfer is done by a guy who has been with me for years. All the Avatar films are done that way. Everything is done that way. Get a life, people. Seriously. But it feels like he's
Yeah.
gaslighting me because, again, we can look at these pictures with
Yeah,
our own two
I
eyes and be like,
specifically
no.
remember the True Lies one where like their faces do
Yeah.
look a little
Yes. Weird.
plasticky, as they're saying, or just kind of smeared with color, like the grain's kind of gone, or it's too grainy, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just like it's kind of unfortunate. Like, but like to the average movie viewer, like they wouldn't care. But, like,
Well,
does the
yeah.
average movie viewer buying the 4K restorations? And it's like probably not, because like what are the sales on these things? Like it's
Right.
gotta be pretty niche.
They're not exactly. It's like, hey, if you're making this stuff for people who care about that stuff, you got to care. Like, you got to do the work. You know what I mean? Like, otherwise, it just feels like you're kind of
But you got to
spitting in
take
the
his.
face of
I
your.
mean, he
Yeah.
listed his whole process there. So like,
Sure.
you mean you got to give it up to the goat.
Yeah, I guess we just ultimately just disagree with his taste. It's weird to disagree with James Cameron on what we think looks good, I guess.
Yeah.
But
And by the way, I think we got some little tidbits on the new Avatar movie, like some of the
Oh, yeah.
and Ash, I think it's
Yeah.
called.
yeah, wild.
So that's exciting. That's next year, I believe, which is insane. I love that turnaround time from Avatar 2 to 3.
100%. Well, the
brilliant.
first one was too long, like the break
Yeah,
between the
yeah,
first
over a
and second.
decade. And then also, I believe his name is John Landau, the producer, R.I.P. I think he died a few months back. Very unfortunate. Yeah, because I was just seeing so much interviews of this guy, and when watching Avatar one special features, when I dove into Alita Battle Angel, which he heavily produced and kind of got that project off the ground, and was working on the sequel, the potential sequel for that. And then
Right.
obviously just
Producer for
James Cameron's producer friend, just on all these Avatar movies, and like Titanic, Oscar winner. So that sucks.
63. It's young too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, there are certain people within like Hollywood. You get inducted into like Hall of Fames
Mhm.
in sports. You get inducted as a player or as a builder. You know. I like to kind of complete the analogy here. Actors and directors feel like the players, right? Whereas like producers, especially these types of producers, really feel like they're the builders, right? And there's a distinction between the good ones and the bad ones. Like there was news just the other day, I think even yesterday, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, about Kathleen Kennedy at Lucasfilm extending her contract through at least the second quarter of 2025. So, middle of next year, basically, right? And in general, I think you could look back, just like John Landau, you could look back and say they had a clear and present impact on the types of movies we saw for a long time. And because of that, we got better movies, right? And I feel conflicted with the Kathleen Kennedy one. Obviously, she helped produce movies like Indiana Jones, and many more. E.T. I think
Lock
as well.
her up.
It's crazy, but like on one hand, she's gotten a lot of hate for her running of Lucasfilm and Star Wars, right? That being said, we've got a lot of really good stuff out of it, including The Last Jedi, The Mandalorian, Andor, etc. Right? But we've also got a lot of stinkers, and this again, not to get into the nitty gritty of the cancellation of the Acolyte, although it is kind of seemingly casting a shadow over all this, but I have been hesitant to like blame her for a lot of this work. I think my biggest problem I have with Kathleen Kennedy is it's not clear to me whether she doesn't have the backbone to stand up for projects that like The Acolyte, or she's actively involved in the cancellation of those shows, just as the most recent example. But she seems awfully willing to bend to the will of the loudest, most annoying people on the internet. It happened after The Last Jedi. It happened with The Acolyte. It's happened with Kenobi and all. Like, it just, there's so many of these examples where instead of committing to a vision of their own, it happened after Solo. That's another one that drives me nuts. We should have had a Solo 2 or some sort of follow-up to that movie already, but because of their own mismanagement and their own kind of faltering in how they and when they released that movie, it's now like blacklisted, and they don't recast characters now. We just get these CG abominations of Luke Skywalker, where I would like her to have a little bit more of a commitment to her own path, right? Like, she let Rian Johnson make a movie, but then ripped the script away from what's his name, who was doing Episode 9, to give it back to JJ so he can reset things again.
It's not show friends; it's show business.
Well, listen, I understand. It's not about that.
It's just a bunch of people just not sticking through on a narrative plan, and then other creatives wanting to turn.
But isn't that bad business?
Something.
Like, to me, that seems like bad business.
Everyone's involved with it, though. Everyone, like,
I don't know.
You're recasting Superman. You're you know what I mean? Like, you're doing all these things. Everyone's part of that. Everyone wants to do their version, their take, and it's just a big mismatch.
Yeah, but I think that causes there to be a loss of trust from the audience, right?
Yeah.
Like, if I can't be confident that I can watch an 8-episode television series that clearly sets up a second season is not going to get a second season, that's gonna rub me the wrong way and make me feel less good about the brand, right? And so constantly saying, oh, this is not working, let's do this. Oh, this is not working, let's do that. Instead of having a commitment to a vision that you believe in, I respect not everything's going to work, right? But if you said this is what it's going to be, and we're going to, and even Marvel's been guilty of this lately, this kind of reactionary movie making. They're trying to chase this like amorphous cultural what's the word I'm looking for? Target, right? That's constantly shifting, right? This movie's too woke. Oh, it's not woke enough. Oh, like all this kind of stuff that's should be completely separate from the movie making process, but instead is influencing so much of the decision making at this executive level, seemingly, again, because we get so little transparency about this, that you kind of have to draw that conclusion. It's it's infuriating to me. Like it's
Yeah,
so
but
frustrating.
obviously, if you like the show, you're gonna be infuriating regardless.
It's not just about the accolade
If you
though.
didn't like the show, you just feel like you were right, and then you beat down on the people who like something. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
funny.
weird,
You're in
right?
that.
But again, it's like it's one thing for the fan base to be like that. And by the way, there's a really great article over at Rolling Stone that you should read about this, but um, that talks about kind of like how the Star Wars needs to reckon with itself and understand. It needs to make a decision about what it wants to be. And right now, there's the future is very murky at Star Wars, and it's very unfortunate. I don't know. Where do you feel like with the brand of Star Wars right now, Jeremy? As someone who's kind of not even been involved in the last several years, I think that's an indictment in of itself
Yeah, of
on
course.
Lucasfilm.
Yeah, it just kind of sucks. It's like we got teased, with Obi-Wan. Like that was such a exciting turn of events. Like, okay, that's cool. Like they're all coming back,
Right, but even
and
that
that
was like,
but that just
yeah,
just ended up being disappointing and just kind of flat, and like had some elements that were really cool, and like certain elements could pull on your heartstrings or your nostalgia, or you're just kind of love for these characters and where they've been and how you know them, and like the actors did a fair job kind of evoking that. But just as a whole piece, as like this show that you'd love to go and revisit and like have this like Star
just too
Wars adventure
bumpy.
to it. The
Yeah,
tones are all off because it's like it has to be very serious and emotional, but then it's like fun and lighthearted in certain moments. So trying to be too much at once. But then
it
like we
wants to
also agreed
please
that it could have
everyone.
been just been like cut down to like a 3 hour movie or something like that,
Yes, 100%.
which would have been really cool. But and I think
That's I don't know if
Spando
that's still coming out, but there's a fan cut of that
someone's gonna
that's
yeah.
being put together. They're like shooting additional like scenes
Hmm.
so that they can stitch it together better. And I don't know I don't know where I find it or if it's legal, but I want to see that cut of
Yeah.
it because like there's so much that's just not
And then
good.
obviously Mandalorian kind of like prompt prop Star Wars up again as like this huge thing, but then season two I guess was
Well, season 2 is its peak, right? That's when it
oh, okay,
ended
well, three
with
then I guess is there three
yeah.
seasons?
Season 3 is where it
Oh yeah,
maybe jumped the
deviated.
shark a bit.
But then
Yeah.
they're kind of refiguring, resetting, and they're just gonna make a movie with those
Right.
characters,
With maybe
which
one
is
of the
looking
worst
pretty
titles of
cool.
all time in Mandalorian and Grogu. It's a brutal title.
Well, they're just
It's not good.
because it was almost like, yeah, that was cool, and then they couldn't pivot away from that. They had to pivot like back to it to make it like
Yeah,
that's what the
no
Mandalorian is.
commitment. This Book of Boba Fett, right? Like, hey, we're gonna make this show about Boba Fett, but we're gonna put 2 episodes of the Mandalorian in it.
Yeah.
It makes no sense, and we're gonna undo the things that happened at the end of season 2, which felt like it had big stakes. They're
I
so
mean,
allergic to stakes in all of these franchises. It's insane.
but specifically with Mandalorian, Baby Yoda, Grogu, whatever, like that just kind of took a chokehold on everything. Like it's like it
Yeah,
lives and
stop the
dies by it.
presses. Yeah, we
You know
have
what
to
I
make
mean?
everything
And we're
needs to
gonna
be
live by it
baby.
for a
Yeah,
while.
exactly.
Sell the
Fuck.
merchandise, do the movie, but we could have got like this Western, bounty hunter
Yeah.
building out the lore of what a
Mm-hmm.
Mandalorian is and the religious stuff to that and how it fits in the greater universe, how he goes up against other adversaries or
Right. But
we
they're
get
like,
we get
no, we got to
elements
bring
of that.
Grogu back. Grogu has to
And
come
I guess
back
they
in.
can do those things around that, but it just seems like okay, like yeah, that was like lightning in a bottle. This Grogu character, who would have known? And it has this cool elements of old Star Wars in terms of the practicality of the puppet
Sure.
of him. Um, yeah, it's interesting all those elements, and but I think it's cool how they reset and decided to do a movie instead of because I think drawing things out is kind of like cringy now. Like you kind of have to find that like yeah we're doing only 3 seasons or 4 seasons.
Well,
Game of Thrones
yeah.
went on for way too long. Like that was such a cool time period when it first boomed and was flourishing with its seasons that it's almost like you want more, but
I
then
don't think you
looking
could
back,
do. I don't think you could do it now. I don't think you could do a 10
yeah,
10 season show like that. Really, you know.
yeah, because
Maybe,
even House of Dragons is gonna be three, right, or three or four.
yeah, exactly. And I don't know. We don't know how many seasons Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power is going to be.
But then Game
But
of Thrones was in a specific situation where it was like this biggest thing ever. So why would you want it to end? Plus,
you
the
wouldn't
books weren't
exactly.
finished, so you're trying to like hold up for that. But then you surpass it,
Yes.
and then for some reason they don't give you the proper budget or time because also the actors want to do other things.
Do you
You get
think they
Stranger
ever
Things.
remake the final season? Do you ever think
No,
they go back
that's
and do
never gonna
that?
happen. That's ridiculous. You don't remake
I
something.
agree. I agree with you, but it's crazy how much of a like complete collapse the entire series is because of that final season, right? If you could like
Yeah, I mean you
recapture
can
that
find
for a
people who
moment.
like it too, though. So whatever. I don't know
Yeah.
anything about it.
No, I don't
I
know.
just know how things get rushed, and it's just
Apparently they're all burnt
unfortunate.
out. They were all burnt out. They
Yeah,
didn't
and like
want
I
it to
said, I was saying,
continue. Yeah.
Stranger Things, right? They're filming that
Oh my god, yeah. Jesus
season
Christ.
right now,
Yeah.
and that one went on too long. But they're also kind of in agreement, like, yeah, let's end it on really good terms. Let's come up with a good like, and the budget for those episodes were record breaking, I think, right? For the last
Yes.
season, something
Hmm.
like 30. I want to say like 30 million or something for an episode, or something
Yeah,
crazy like
crazy
that,
number.
or
Yep.
15, or.
But at least they get to have to go out on their own, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, what's his name? I think the director of Deadpool is doing. He's a producer on that show, and he's directing some episodes.
Sean Levy,
Yeah,
Levy.
Sean Levy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we're in a different era of television. I just, kind of putting a final note on the Star Wars thing, which is that another kind of like thing that frustrates me about this Kathleen Kennedy era is this like after Episode 9, we haven't had a movie, and it's been what 5 years now.
Well, they had
I think.
the announcement with all these crazy eras with these logos and how we're just going to
Yes.
jump in and out of them.
And then they
And we're
haven't
getting a
committed to
Rey
many of those.
movie out of
Yeah.
nowhere. It's like what?
Yeah. So a new Rey movie. We're gonna get a first Jedi movie from James Mangold. Or there's supposed to still be a Taika Waititi Star Wars movie. Um, again, the Kathleen Kennedy stuff. You could, if you want to look at directors, how many directors went in and out of some of these pictures. It's in of itself embarrassing. But I just think they're cold feet about coming back to the big screen. It's like, what are we
X-Wing
doing?
Movie.
Yeah, it's crazy. Oh yeah.
But then all these
Lando.
creatives have
Yeah.
like a bomb or like a creative like misstep or a stinker at the box office, and it's like they're canceled.
Yeah, it does make sense.
Well, like Taika after Thor,
Love and Thunder. Mm-hmm.
right, which doubled down on the
Yes.
previous Ragnarok, which was widely successful.
Yep.
Then you have Kathleen Kennedy after Wonder Woman, which was a major success. With a
that wasn't
bombing of Wonder.
That wasn't Kathleen
Or
Kennedy.
sorry,
That was
similar. Isn't it similar? Something
it
similar?
is close. Oh man. Was it Catherine Bigelow? No.
Yeah. No.
Is that it?
No, that's
No.
not it.
Catherine
Okay, we'll
Bigelow's
figure it
like
out.
Hurt Locker,
But
right?
she,
Yeah.
yes, she directed. We're talking about the Wonder Woman director, and then Wonder Woman
Patty
2,
Jenkins.
which is Patty Jenkins, which
Yeah.
is brutal, bomb.
Yes.
And then she's
Absolutely
kind of
brutal
like,
movie. Yeah.
Then she's kind of
She's in
axed
director
from,
jail.
like, Star Wars.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's like this weird. It's like cancel culture type. Like,
Well,
even
yeah.
Ryan
Remember there was the
Johnson
Game of Thrones
was just
guys.
basically
Remember?
removed from Star Wars.
Yeah.
But he's just thriving on his own because he's an actual creative, like
Because he's actually good at what he does. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whereas Taika was kind of like exposed, like a little bit on the third.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, if his you don't think that Jojo Rabbit was a good movie? Because I think it's a
I don't
brilliant
remember
movie.
how I've seen it.
That's the
No,
one
I just
with
mean
where
like
he plays
was
Hitler.
exposed in terms of what he was trying to do at Marvel and how he
Right.
like his process. Like he didn't care
Sure,
about, like,
it
special
didn't
effects
fit for
or-
everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. But like, I would have been open to seeing a Star Wars movie with his fingerprints on it. It's like, what's a Taika Waititi funny Star Wars movie look like? I feel like
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
closer
I think
to
he had
his
a pretty
sensibilities.
He had a pretty impressive episode, I think, of one of those. Was it? I think it was Mandalorian.
Yeah. Yes.
With
So
the
Mandalorian
It
season
was funny, right? Because
one.
the stormtroopers
Yes.
like bantering.
Yes.
And
Season the
talking or
finale,
whatever.
I think, or it was either the finale or the episode before the finale that he directed. Yeah. And he also starred in as IG-11. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, it's a
Yeah, you
series
mess
of missed
up, it's
opportunities.
like, too bad. It's all business. You have
Yeah, but
friends
again,
within
but like
you have
the
friends
reaction
within
is wrong.
business that's very rare. Like we had the example with Channing Tatum and Ryan Reynolds.
Sure.
Channing Tatum on his whole victory lap tour here with this character.
It doesn't really
probably
happen
realized
on the executive
he's
level.
literally saying that Ryan's the only guy who's had his back, and
Right.
like throughout Hollywood and stuff, and like him giving him this chance to play this character that he's loved since he was a kid. it's just a dream come true for him.
Yeah,
And
I feel
then
like some of that is a little disingenuous. Like it's a little bit like high on their own supply because it's like he's a wildly
on their own
successful act.
supply.
He's a highly successful actor. To me,
Who?
it's Channing
Channing?
Tatum. It strikes me as a situation of where like, what do you mean no one's had his back? Like he's
Well,
been in
it's
so many movies, like that have
but
been
it's
successful,
the show
funny.
businessy that we're talking. Like, because he tried to get that movie made, and then
Sure.
it just the studios would not, like, nothing would back him. I think he's just talking in that context.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I
Fair
mean?
enough. It kind of seems like, you know how in sports people are like, everyone hates us and we use that as fuel because we know we're the best. You know what I mean? Like that attitude, which is like largely manufactured, I think, but like it's effective, you know, to like
Mm.
delude yourself into believing that you're the underdog so
Stay
that
high in your own supply.
yeah, exactly. um Everyone likes their own brand. Back to Batman Crusader because I didn't get to finish my thoughts on that. That was a bit of a long tangent. Just quick recap on where we were. Comparison between X-Men 97 and Batman Kate Crusader. X-Men 97 taking the direct sequel approach, but with new creatives involved. But one in almost a fan service or fan film-esque way where it's like, we watched this as kids and now it's my chance to make it. Right?
And it's not inserting oneself onto
Right.
the canvas that the X-Men is. It's servicing, paying reverence to what that
Like it's
is.
literally sequel to the original. It's like we're just going to continue more of the same, right?
Like what would make the most sense, like really cool sense, basically, in going that route, and not just going super crazy where it's like, hey, I don't care to watch this.
Right. So I guess the question is, like, in an alternate reality, would you have been more interested in a Batman the Animated Series sequel, essentially, knowing that you wouldn't be
No.
able to have the original voice cast really back in the same way?
No, I think you. No, it's. I mean, the genie's out of the bottle at this point too. Like,
Yeah. Well, Kevin Conroy's passed away, and yeah.
but X-Men, I don't know. There's just so much. Like, there's so many more characters. You know what I mean? Like like we got how many seasons of Batman plus?
Well, yeah.
Batman
Plus,
in the Justice
yes,
League,
yes,
plus Batman Beyond, a version
yes.
of him.
Right.
It's like
Batman plus in
like
the Superman show, yeah. And
that whole thing with Bruce Timm, incredible stuff. But it was also spawned off of the Tim Burton Batman.
Yeah,
live
that was a
action,
major influence at
like,
the time.
mythos.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that was this whole tone, look, and feel, and they kind of blended the comics plus the Tim Burton verse into one, and it created this magical,
The perfect balance.
timeless
Yeah.
Batman show with the greatest voice actors of all time. But then even that notion can bounce around because, like, look at the voice acting of Wolverine, or even Rogue in the new X-Men. It's the same actors, and they're just killing it. So
Yeah, I
but,
mean,
like, you gotta
there's
give it
not.
to
It's
Kevin
not
Conroy,
completely
though.
the entire cast, though, right? Like they did recast some people.
No, like there's a new Gambit, but I think they got that old Gambit actor to voice someone new, anyways.
Right. Well, and also the
Uh,
person who voiced Xavier passed away, I think. So
and then and then I think for Jubilee, the actress didn't want to do it anymore because she's white, so they kind of want to do like that whole
right.
like,
But then she played older Jubilee anyway.
yes,
So
and the send off. So like,
yeah,
yeah, the voice acting in our cartoons over the years have been phenomenal.
it's crazy. It's crazy that these people don't get more respect. To be honest, it's wild. Okay, so that brings us, I think, catches up to where we are with Batman Cape Crusader, which is not a direct follow-up, but in my opinion, is not more timeless, but it's its own unique timelessness for this, like, more adventures with Batman. It uses your existing knowledge. It's like, we're not going to litigate, Batman's origins or that kind of thing. We're just going to, it's just more adventures with Batman in this more grounded, a little bit more gritty, a little bit more adult version of Batman the Animated Series. It's kind of like they're doing that thing where, when you get a retro video game remake where it feels like what you remember it as, but not actually what it was, Whereas I remember Batman the Animated Series as being very gritty, but if you go back, they do pull their punches a lot. And this show does not really do that. There's some pretty cool action beats, um, and very dark themes, and they even like don't right away. They don't shy away from supernatural stuff, which I think is fun. And I think although they do supernatural stuff with Batman the animated series, this feels like a feels fresh in its approach. And despite not having Kevin Conroy, they cast Hamish Linklater as Batman, and you could argue, I know people have said that he's doing like a Kevin Conroy impersonation, kind of
Mixed with Jensen Ackles.
a little bit, but I would say it's like if you're gonna if you're gonna do the role and you're gonna be working with Bruce Timm, and it's kind of like in that same vein. It's not an exact replica of Kevin Conroy, but he's the GOAT. So if you're gonna copy somebody, you might as well copy the best, right? And I think it totally works. I think it's a great voice actor or voice performance from Batman, from Hamish Linklater for Batman. And you also have like other kind of like smaller roles played by in really solid way. Like John DiMaggio plays Bullock, and he's great as that. And Diedrich Bader, who has a history as Batman in Batman, I'm trying to remember which one he did now. Anyway, the more childish one that came in the mid to late 2000s. He's really great as Harvey Dent, and they do this whole extended. You didn't see it all, but they do this extended Harvey Dent multi-episode arc, and it's very satisfying. It's obviously set up for way more. It's different than Batman the Animated Series, but like not so different that I can't just enjoy the amazing Bruce Timm art, right? This like very specific style and tone that apes Batman the Animated Series with just a little bit more edginess. It's willing to be more invested in surrounding characters. It's not just about Batman, right? So you get a lot more Montoya, and you get a lot more of this alternate version of Harley Quinn that's very different, which is interesting because we're going to get another different version of Harley Quinn for Joker 2. But at first, I think you see some of these changes, and you're like, it's not what I'm used to. But then when you think, you step back, it just totally fits into the world that they've created. Like their version of Clayface, for instance, maybe the best episode of the series, probably, and so good. It's very different than the big clay monster they have in Batman the Animated Series, but is telling a much more like, I don't want a mature story. It's a lot slower, a lot more deliberate in its pacing and the kind of emotional underpinnings and stakes that they want to employ. I think it's really, really amazing. Like, I'm happy it exists in a similar way that I'm happy that X-Men '97 exists. It's more of something I like in a way that I might like even more than the original, because we get this kind of 2024 4K version of the animation that is Bruce Timm's work. It just looks absolutely stunning. And then you get these really fresh takes. It's just, I don't know, it's just everything about it. It feels like this perfect like noir detective story that I've wanted from Batman for a long time. Feels similar to The Batman. Obviously, the director for that film, what's his name, is involved in, is involved here. So, there's a lot of executive producers and producers on this show that you recognize. But I think in general, this is a hit for me. This is a success for me. And I would really encourage you, Jeremy, to like finish the series, because I think it starts poorly. I think it's really strong as it gets closer to it. Like, it ramps up into, I think, way more interesting and engaging stories as it gets closer to the end of the season. So yeah, if folks out there haven't seen it or haven't given it a shot on Amazon Prime, 100% got to give it a shot. So again, impressed with the content that we get from Amazon Prime. We don't get a lot from them, to be honest. It's kind of few and far between, but what we do get has proven to be pretty good, especially as of late. Speaking of which, Jeremy, did you see that? Was it Level Up, or that anthology series from the folks from Love, Death, and Robots, who are doing like a video game animated anthology coming to Amazon Prime. Did you hear about that?
Nope.
So they're doing, I can't remember what it's called now. Again, it's like called Level Up or video game anthology series Amazon. It is called Secret Level, and it's it's pretty cool. I mean, again, you've got this kind of anthology, 3D animated, um, mini episodes, right? You watch Love, Death, and Robots, or at least a few of them, right?
I don't think so.
You didn't watch a single one of those episodes, man. You're missing out. Great stuff on Netflix. This is from a lot of the same creators. It's gonna have Blur Studios and a bunch of others involved, but it's gonna be Dungeons and Dragons, Armored Core, Spelunky, Pac-Man, Mega Man, God of War. There's a whole bunch that I'm probably missing, but a whole bunch of random video games that they're doing, including an Armored Core one that stars Keanu Reeves. What else am I missing? Sifu, Warhammer 40,000, Exodus. Some of these I've never heard of. Crossfire, Concord, etc. But either way, that's coming later to Amazon Prime also. Anywho, that's kind of the main stuff. Anything you want to touch on before we wrap things up, Jeremy?
I don't know. I mean, I don't have a list of anything, so.
Okay, well here I'll throw a couple at you. We'll do speed round here. Okay. Dan Trachtenberg's next Predator movie, Badlands, has begun filming. It stars Elle Fanning, and it'll be set sometime in the future. Does that excite you?
I guess.
You liked Prey, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I also like Prey. My bold hot take at the time was that it's the best Predator movie. And
no.
Yes, I know you disagree. But either way, it was great, and I'm excited to see more. I guess it's nice to be living in a world again, because Alien Romulus has done really well at the box office. It's a success. 200, well, not really, really well, not in pre-COVID era time frame, but it's like $250 million or $350 million off an $80 million budget, so it's a success. And now we had the last Prey movie. It's just nice to be back in a world where Alien and Predator are both relevant and good again. you know what I mean? So, anyway, look for more. We'll talk more about that later. Okay, let's see here. Ted Lasso is going to come back for season 4. This is exciting for me. But it is odd because they were very adamant that it was over at the end of season 3. So anyway, Jason Sudeikis is back, and so are the rest of the big stars from that show. So it might not have been as good as the first season, but I'm happy to spend more time with those characters. Does that move the needle for you at all, Jeremy?
No.
I didn't think so. There is a trailer for Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. This is an anime Lord of the Rings movie set before the events of Lord of the Rings, obviously, but specifically around the events of the Rohan. They're under attack, and this is when kind of like Helm's Deep gets its name, and you get King Helm. I'm sure I'm butchering some of this lore stuff, but that's what it's about. You can find a trailer of that online. By the way, there's also a trailer for Sonic 3, which has Keanu Reeves as Shadow the Hedgehog, and he looks pretty entertaining, Jeremy. I'm not going to lie. And by the way, no less, it does include the return of Dr. Robotnik. So Jim Carrey comes back for that. And if you just want to see some wacky Jim Carrey again, I very much encourage people to go watch the Sonic movies. They are pretty damn funny, even if they're for kids. It is what it is. All right, what else? 9 Inch Nails is doing the music for the next Tron movie, Tron Ares. I feel like this is the best case scenario. In fact, I don't know, I can't prove this, but I feel like at one point we said the only other people we would want to do the soundtrack for Tron, if it couldn't be Daft Punk, was Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor, which is that's essentially what 9 Inch Nails is. So I guess we win in some case. I don't know. I'm still very skeptical about that movie. I love Tron Legacy. I think it's criminally underrated. I have big concerns about Jared Leto as just an
Huge Jared
actor.
Leto hater.
I'm a bit of a hater. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a bit of a Jared Leto hater. He needs to prove to me. He needs to show me he's not what Morbius is. Just show me he's not. He's more than Morbius, and I'll be. And obviously he has done more than that. I get that, but he hasn't done that lately, and I'm skeptical. That's all I'm saying. What else? That's probably it. I think that's the main. That's the main stuff. I could keep going back further in the timeline here, but I think I'm happy with where we are. I mentioned that they're doing a different version of Joker for or Harley Quinn for Joker 2, and by the way, we'll end on this, Jeremy. Okay. Speaking of Joker 2, we'll do a quick agree or disagree. All right. On something Todd Phillips, the director of Joker, has to say. He says, Todd Phillips says, fans who care about the high budget of Joker 2 sound like movie execs. Quote, shouldn't people be happy that we got this money out of them? Then we used it to hire a bunch of crew and people who can feed their families, unquote. In similar kind of vein to, I guess, James Cameron and his kind of whole shtick about the people need to kind of like take a step back and be like, does it really matter how much the budget of Joker 2 is? I understand where that sentiment comes from. It's like everyone needs to chillax. This is just movies. But I guess I kind of disagree here. But maybe, Jeremy, any quick thoughts on Todd Phillips and kind of his stance on people caring about movie budgets?
Okay, what's the...
Do you agree with Todd Phillips that people shouldn't give a shit about that?
No.
Okay. I agree with you, for the record. Why not? Or why?
It's just about the product. Like, as long as it's entertaining or a good movie, like, we're not going to be questioning the budget.
Okay, so I disagree. I do slightly disagree with you. Okay. We'll get to that, but go continue. Sorry.
I just don't think it should be taken into account on, like, it's a success if the budget's super low and it makes X amount, right? Like
that's not a metric. You're saying that's not a metric for what makes a good movie.
No.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's true.
But people will use the budget when it is a bad movie. The budget is discussed.
That's true. If it's a flop or not.
They wasted hundreds of millions of dollars, like the Borderlands movie or whatever. Right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Wild.
So it's
yes.
like, but it's just all about the finished product. Like, what are we watching? What do we want to share? What do we want to talk about? Is it worth it? And then the conversation turns onto money, whether it's successful or a failure.
Sure. I think you're right in some cases, but I don't think you're 100% correct here, because on one hand, you're right. Nobody cares if Fast and Furious 10 costs $700 million if it makes $1.5 billion, right? That being said, I think as fans of movies, and again, to be clear, I agree with you that how much money a movie makes is not an indicator of quality. And I think those two things get construed often, right? Oh, it was a failure at the box office, therefore it's a failure as a movie. But that's not how it works. I mean, Blade Runner was a failure at the box office. Blade Runner 2049, which is one of maybe the greatest sci-fi movies ever made, was a failure at the box office, and that movie is a masterpiece, right? So that I agree. I think that's not controversial at all. That I make it more controversial saying this, though, that I think it's fair and right for fans of movies to criticize studios. And maybe like Todd Phillips is right. Like, maybe he's not the right audience to have that conversation with. Like, Todd Phillips is part of the people making money from that $300 million budget or whatever Joker 2 costs, right? And he's right in the sense that, like, as an artist, to get the money from the studio to make something that you believe in is in of itself a victory. It's like, okay, you're gonna fund my art, great. You know what I mean? On the other hand, how often do we see studio executives writing checks for things that probably don't deserve it, right? And it's not. This is a zero-sum game when it comes to finances in Hollywood. So funding Fast and Furious 10 for $750 million means that, and I think about this all the time. I can't remember who said it. I should really write that down so I can be a better attributor. But at the Oscars last year, and he shouted out as he won his award, is like, make less $100 million movies, make 10 $10 million movies, right? And I kind of agree with that sentiment, which is just in general that it's fair to say, hey, man, this cash grab, and you could argue that Joker 2 is a cash grab, though it kind of walks the line of kind of like artistic integrity versus commercial product, I think. Being a sequel and also a adaptation of a comic book character that really, the first one is it's very wildly different from the first one. Anyway, that kind of stuff. But as someone who watches movies, and again, just as we talked about the kind of the collapse of the television system, so too can movies collapse in that same way by funding these massive failures like Borderlands, and others that don't, which means ultimately that people get laid off and people, it's harder to get, more of that stuff made. So I don't know. I kind of come down on both sides of this, but I think largely speaking, I think Todd Phillips, as the beneficiary, is maybe not the right person to comment on this ultimately, but as fans of this stuff and as critics, like, and mostly fans, I think let's move the critics part of it, but as fans, I think we're kind of owed answers around like, hey, if you're making stuff that you're selling to me, I kind of care how much it costs, because if you make things that are too big to fail, it can negatively impact the larger industry that I also care for, right? So I don't know. It's a complicated issue. Any other thoughts on that?
Nope.
All right. Well, then, on that case, let's wrap it up. We'll hope to come back to do another one of these soon. But again, the schedule being a little all over the place as it is. Again, look for the Patreon exclusive film club in the Patreon feed, either later this week or early next. So stay tuned for that. Patreon.com/TowerBabblecast for that. Follow us on Twitter at TowerBabblecast, Facebook.com/TowerBabblecast, and head over to the website TowerBabble.ca, where you can find all the work, including, as Jeremy mentioned, just brief shout out. If you have not seen the HBO Watchmen series, first of all, what are you doing? Go do that now. It's great. Go watch the HBO Watchmen series. But also, in our archive on TowerBabble.ca, you can find our companion show that was a kind of mini-series podcast in and of itself that covers each episode week to week. So find that over at TowerBabble.ca, I think /archive or something like that, and you'll find it there for Watchmen on HBO. Also, of course, by the way, Game of Thrones and the first season, the first and best season of Westworld, also from HBO. Those are all in the archive. Okay, we'll be back soon. There's a whole bunch of irons in the fire right now. Thank you, everyone, for your patience, and we look forward to more TOB very soon. We'll talk to you then.